Okay, there we go. Join us for a conversation on Juneteenth while we get ready for the World Cup game tonight, Haiti versus Brazil. Good on the TikTok as well. I can hear that working out. All right, we straight. We finna get the action. We finna get live with it. Like, subscribe. And I'm gonna make this one edit post, edit audience. I'm gonna make this public. I'm gonna let everybody join. We're gonna make this one public. I'm gonna let everybody hop on Juneteenth conversations, and in case somebody want to bring some smoke too, we can do that. All right, so too easy. So now I can see that on there. That's good. All right, so we know that that's working. What up? What up? What up? Appreciate y'all joining. Appreciate y'all hopping in. Y'all on TikTok though, so I'm live on YouTube right now as well. House of I-10. So you'll be able to see that. There will be some things that I'll show you. You won't be able to see it on TikTok, but you'll be able to see it on the YouTube, especially when you start sharing the screen and start talking about Juneteenth. Because it's crazy because people were saying who could celebrate it, who can't. Man, the clarity looks nice on there. Let me go ahead and take this off of here. So if you see me set up, y'all see some of it with the Haiti, Haiti stand up. The game is tonight, Haiti versus Brazil, 9 p.m. So we excited for that. So we gonna kind of rock our party, have some fun for the Haiti-Brazil game. You see the red and the blue. So the red and the blue is multiple reasons. Of course, if you're Juneteenth, so a lot of times you'll see the red, black, and green for the Juneteenth, but the official colors of Juneteenth are red, white, and blue. So that's why you see the room right now. I got the blue right here and got the red up there because there's also the colors for Haiti is red and blue. So it's kind of like a double reason, but the Pan-African flag it's cool to use the Pan-African flag. Like, what I'm saying? I got mine because that just means that everybody from the diaspora supports everybody, so it's cool, but understanding that there are officially colors for Juneteenth. So today it is Juneteenth, but I hope y'all having a good one, a safe one. We just gonna talk about some of the origins of it. You won't hear me say this a couple times because other people keep on joining and keep on recycling in, but Juneteenth is not the celebration of the end of slavery in the United States of America. It's not, and a lot of people keep saying that. It's not the celebration of the end of slavery. What Juneteenth is the commemoration and the ending of, and you see me, y'all on YouTube, y'all see me looking over there because I'm making sure I got TikTok, then I got y'all right here, so you'll see me kind of bouncing back and forth. But it is the commemoration and ending of slavery in the Confederate States. In the Confederate States. That's why Texas is so significant, because Texas was the last state to find out, last state in the Confederacy. Remember, they succeeded. That's the Civil War. But they was the last state to find out that Lincoln had freed the slaves in the Confederate States. You still had about 65,000 people still enslaved. So that's why we say, yes, Juneteenth celebration freedom is good, but we want to make sure that we are explaining that we celebrating Juneteenth in the right context, because how we say we ain't free until we all free. So that's what we going by. Then you still had 2 states where slavery was still occurring, and that was Kentucky and Delaware. Those were called the border states. So the celebration and what we should be asking for, our next goal that we need to be getting, especially from the federal government, is December 6th. So December 6th, 1865, that's the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment is the law and thing that abolishes slavery in the United States in its totality. So we already got the Juneteenth celebration. If you in Florida, our Juneteenth just passed May Day, which was on May 20th. So remember, the Juneteenth celebration is the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. That's when people are celebrating it. So of course, the Emancipation Proclamation was not read the same day for everybody. So when you look at the different states, they all have different celebrations. So, all right. So when we look up these different dates, right, if people wanted to celebrate, when was the Emancipation Proclamation if you were in a respective state? So, like I said, Florida, May 20th. Then you got Texas is June 19th. They the last ones. Louisiana's April 25th. Then you had some other, this is a part of Louisiana, but there were some other parts of the state in Louisiana where it wasn't read until a little bit later. as the Union pushed forward. Mississippi, May 4th, 1865. That was with the surrender of Confederate General Richard Taylor to the Union General Edward Canby at Centinel, Alabama. So if you're in Alabama, your day would be May 4th, 1865, the day right before Cinco de Mayo. Also, we be celebrating Cinco de Mayo. Bro, Cinco de Mayo is not Mexico's Independence Day. It's not. Cinco de Mayo is the day when they celebrated the defeat of the French military, the French army. So we be celebrating Cinco de Mayo as this Mexican Independence Day, and that is not right. I think Mexican Independence Day is sometime in September. But if you got Mississippi, you do May 4th, 1865. Alabama is also May 4th, 1865 too. So understand that we got dates that we could be celebrating for an extended amount of time. But the next thing that we should be going for to try to get a celebration and try to get an acknowledgement is December 6, 1865. All right, that's the date that we need, because that's the date that slavery was abolished all throughout. So again, if you join us right now, you'll see me. I got the Haiti shirt on. You know what I'm saying? Stand up Haiti, because Haiti is playing Brazil. It's Haiti versus Brazil on Juneteenth. The historical significance of that, man, I swear the stars align for that. So you got Haiti. When you look historically, they are the first black republic in the Western Hemisphere. They were the first blacks to liberate and free themselves from defeat up under the British, the French, and the Spaniards. But then when you got Brazil, Brazil has the highest population of Africans outside of the continent of Africa. You're talking about 12 million Africans was taken from the continent to Brazil. So on June 19th, the day, if you saw the pre-show, you know, I kind of mentioned this, the day when enslaved in Texas got word that they were free in the Confederate States. So on this particular day, 1865, and they've been celebrating June 19 since 1866. So on this particular day, it's just a whole sea of just blackness and history that's all coming together and being celebrated at the World Cup. And of course, this game is being played on U.S. soil. So you know what I'm saying? It's just it's a beautiful day. I think Haiti hadn't been to the World Cup in 55 years or so. So, you know, it's just a wonderful day for celebration. So that's what we're doing live, man. We just kind of having some conversations about Juneteenth, what that means, who is for. You know, I heard some crazy comments on social media where some people were saying that Juneteenth is only for African Americans, and that, you know, if you part of another ethnicity, or if you Caribbean or you African, you can't celebrate because this was a day for liberation for black slaves. And I'm like, bro, what? Like, why are we being, first of all, why are we being exclusionary? Second of all, I'm just going to go ahead and say it because we on live, right? So it's going to be real talk. Some of us, like, we know that black Americans, and I hate using the word black because we can't make this real, right? It was made up in a concept called scientific racism. There is no black, there is no white or anything like that. But for the sake of the conversation, why? We know that we are not the most red. We not the most read when it comes to our history. We not the most well-versed when it comes to the story. So in order to understand Juneteenth, you have to understand the slave movement. You have to understand the institution of slavery that happened on this soil. If you don't understand that, then you can't be all in your feelings and your emotions, then trying to be exclusionary and tell people who can celebrate and who can't celebrate. Like, but that's ridiculous. That's not even us. Like, that's you furthering this experiment to further separate us and divide us as a people. That's why I got on this Haiti. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, celebrate the achievements of other people of the African diaspora. But that's why everybody laugh at us. You know, and of course, this is not to be dismissive and to not say that there aren't immigrants and people that look down on African Americans, especially when they come into this land. But that is particularly because people do not understand history. They don't understand history. They don't know history. So they misrepresent for their lack of understanding what history is. And then what happens is that you get in front of somebody who either has an articulation or they pull on your emotional heartstrings, and you start to believe that stuff that they telling you when they're fabricating, and they're having a misunderstanding on history, because it's not, unfortunately, with everything that happened, it's just not that, no pun intended, black and white. It's just not that binary 0 and 1. It's not. It's a lot of nuance that goes into the story. So if you're not poring over books and going to museums, I promise you, a lot of people, I feel like they don't go to museums, they be talking this stuff. If you don't go to museums, if you ain't doing research, if you're not trained, qualified, then you telling somebody, if you see somebody with a Haitian flag or a Jamaican flag on Juneteenth, you gonna beat their ass because it's not for them. Bro, what are you talking about? So that's what we're gonna get into, bro. We gonna kind of break this down a little bit and show why this is a celebratory opportunity and moment for those African Americans. You know, this new term by Tariq Nasheed that he wants to make popular, FBA, Foundational Black Americans. Again, trying to make sense of the black thing, and that don't make any sense because nobody's black. That's about black and brown. Bro, what are you talking about? Like, last you look at your skin, and sometimes you gotta go to the kids because the kids will make you make sense out of this. You tell a 5-year-old to go get a crayon out of the Crayola box that matches their skin. None of them are grabbing to say, okay, nah. All right, I get it. Can't say none. Most of them ain't grabbing black. So we got to be more responsible with how we converse because I think that that's also causing a lot of confusion among us. And I ain't gonna really, man, look, I kind of want to have a little fun with it, so I don't want to just bore y'all to death with the information because, like I said, this supposed to be the ride out. This supposed to be the lead up into the World Cup. So, you know, I kind of do want to, you know, keep it, you know, ask questions too. You in the chat, bro, ask questions, share the live, you know, let's have some fun with it. But I just seen some stuff and I just think we getting way out of left field and we're having some history. You know what, dog? I gotta go to my video. Cause, you know, he DJ. I gotta get him a shout out for sure. Appreciate y'all jumping on the live, man. We talking about Juneteenth real quick. Got him up, hit him up real quick. You can hear it. Yo, team, bro, I'm on a live right now. You on live on YouTube and TikTok right now with the people. So I'm doing a Juneteenth segment, but I'm about to play some music too. What's the page on YouTube? I'm trying to give you some spins, bro. I need to find something. You need to send me a link or something so I can stream it through. Okay, what you going? Oh, y'all, he was the New York Knicks. He a New York Knicks fan.
Everybody. Hold on. You see how we acting? It's because y'all finally let some real ones in. You know what I mean? We got that. We back on top. The world is back in order. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know them bandwagon fans. I think he was a Lakers fan last year. He was a Lakers fan.
Who was a Lakers fan? Never rooting for the Lake Show. Always rooting for where I'm from.
He did a Google search. Google search to figure out the stats.
Google search, man.
You went to the parade?
Now I wish I did, but then again, looking at it on TV, I'm glad I did. That shit look.
You got the last minute ticket to go out there.
I started to, but then I was like, nah, let me chill and relax because I'm old now, man. I'm 40. These ain't gonna be doing it, standing outside like that all day, drinking dark liquor, smoking out there. About to do all that all day.
Fact. That thing did look crazy. I seen them knocking over the barricades and everything, trying to get.
Oh yeah, it did. Still not get a good view of City Hall. See, that's where they messed up. They should have just went straight to City Hall and instead of like trying to meet the parade at the beginning and shit. Should have just woke up at 4 a.m. and went straight to City Hall and posted up. But then you've been posting up to like from 4 a.m. all the way to like noon. So yeah. You know, New York looked crazy and it looked amazing at the same time. Did you peep Shorty that was throwing ass and throwing hands at the same time?
I didn't even see that.
Oh yeah,
well, it was so much going on, but good.
Yeah, Shorty, her Instagram is Red Punch. She already famous now. She up there. She was climbing the light pole, and it was this Blanca joint. She was on the second tier of the light pole, and she was hating on her. So she snatched Shorty off the light pole, threw her to the ground, and the white chick, she grabbed her by her shorts and pulled her shorts down, and all you see is ass cheeks twerking. And Shorty had 2 tattoos on her ass cheek, and then when she got down, she proceeded to whoop that lady ass, boy. Yeah, she stole the parade. But, you know, if y'all did watch the parade, they had some Fugazi folks on stage doing stuff. And to be real, I mean, I will always appreciate Empire State of Mind with Jay-Z and Alicia Keys, but there's way more songs they could have played, man.
They played that song out, bro.
Stuff. I mean, give us lean back, I'd have rocked out with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or, 100 Guns, 100 Clips. I'm from New York. That'd have been rocking. Throw some 50, some Nas, other whole tracks. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. We got the chip. The world's back in order. Now all we need is for the Yankees to do it. Hopefully
the Yankees. That's what I'm waiting on. I got the Sinatra special shirt from when I was up there too, the Frank Sinatra edition too.
So brother man, you wear white people on a shirt? That's what we doing now.
You know it. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, it's a Sinatra exclusive. Shit, I'm cheering for the Yankees. The Yankees owned by the white man.
So there you go. You know what?
Hey, look, Knicks fan, y'all owner invited Trump to the game.
Nah, he foolish. Fuckery on that one. I was, and that's why we lost that game too. And that's why we lost that game.
Facts.
We should have jumped Trump, but people ain't body like that no more.
That man shut down outside the Madison Square Garden, bro.
He killed the vibes. He killed the energy. We almost won that game still too, but he killed the vibes. Even my mom's blaming him for that. I'm like, see, that's how you know it. Even your mom's blaming him, that means he really messed up. But
the whole country.
Trump making New York look bad right now. I'm sad to say he's from Queens, but it is what it is. And what's
the bridge is over.
Brother man that went to FSU after he came from fam and had a black wife and everything.
Oh, you talking about Byron Donalds, the dude running for governor?
Repping Brooklyn too. You gotta watch some Brooklyn people, man. Gotta watch them, bro.
Where you from? Where you from for the live?
I'm from the Bronx, baby. Boogie Down Productions. You know what I'm saying? The last to be gentrified. All the other boroughs getting gentrified. The Bronx is still the Bronx.
Oh, y'all say y'all created hip hop?
We don't say it. We did it.
Oh.
Did it.
See, that's why I'm trying to get some music from you, some spins real quick.
I'm trying to give me some spins. Man, yeah, I gotta blow the dust off my set and get back out there, mixing and mingling and whatnot. You know what I mean? But I'll send you a little set I did, but really. It ain't really giving Juneteenth vibes. I should have recorded a set I did at a club the other day. I started off with some real pro-black stuff too, but it is what it is.
Hey, bro, it's never too late. We got some more time. We got Malcolm X birthday coming up next. Yeah, I think Marcus Garvey.
Oh yeah, where Marcus Garvey from?
He's from Jamaica. He ain't from New York.
You got tune in. He done called me on the set.
I'm talking about this World Cup. Finna play some joints. I'm on TikTok, but the
USA holding it down, right?
Man, I got a Haiti shirt on right now. I got the USA.
Hey man, USA holding it down. It was so crazy. The star player of USA, he wasn't even supposed to be born here.
Oh damn.
Yeah, because
I saw they beat Australia.
Yeah, his mom was like 7 months pregnant. They flew to America. Mom's was 7 months pregnant. They was like, you cannot fly back. So he was born here, and then they just stayed here because he had citizenship.
And there it is.
Yeah, swear.
There it is.
And by Trump rules, him and his mama, everybody been booted out. Look at him representing for USA soccer right now, holding it down.
Hey, 2-0, bro.
Yeah. They just gotta get out of the group play, and then we see what happens. They ain't taking us serious. They ain't taking us serious on international football.
Hey, bro, you see what Spain did to Cape Verde?
Nah, I ain't peeped that. What happened?
Oh, they tied. They was expecting Spain to beat them, and they ended up tying. So they was celebrating like they won the game.
What was they playing at? Because I'm hearing a lot of teams is not really feeling the United States weather because it's so damn hot.
But it's all types of stuff that they experiencing right now. The highways, they can't walk. They
Yeah. But one thing they are loving is this American cuisine that we all fat off of. They're saying this food has never been this good in any of their nations. But shit, let me tune in, though. I'm gonna let you get back to me. Tune in. I'm gonna try to send you a mix, all right?
Yes, sir. YouTube and TikTok for sure. Yo. All right, yeah, so we still live real quick. Yeah, man, that's crazy how everybody's over here experiencing America and like they whole experience, like the food. They was going crazy over combos. Like the combos, the pretzel joints with the filling in it. Like they like, what? And then, they at the Mexican restaurants getting the bottomless chips. And they're like, yo, that's crazy. I think it was the Japanese dude who was saying how after you eat it, you only have to ask for it. They fill you, give you another one. But that's also the reason why we so damn obese too. And like like out of shape because the amount of food that we get. But I ain't trying to go off on the tangent. But like I said too, it's supposed to be leading up to the game, so we just kind of rock out everything. But we definitely got to get some clarity, some clarification on this Juneteenth and who can celebrate and who can't. Really understanding who was here, understanding like this whole entire melting pot in this mix from what happened when they came and got us off the out of Africa. We also had a whole thing where they talk about black people, so other black people. All right, let me clear the air on that, right? Because again, I told you about using this word black, but you talk about like ethnicities around West Africa. They have 2,000. This is why you talking about pre-colonialism, pre the white man. They had about 2,000 to 3,000 different ethnicities that existed in Africa in the first place. So they didn't necessarily see themselves as all being one people in the way that we have this issue, which is the whole point of why I'm doing this Juneteenth conversation. In the same way that we see ourselves as different people, even in the same landmass, the people in Africa at that time did not see themselves as one united group. So it's disingenuous when you say Africans or black people sold us into slavery, and then also not understanding that what happened on the transatlantic slave trade and the conditions of what occurred, because slavery has been around for a long time. So it's not that slavery was a new concept, but the type of slavery that was engaged in by the Dutch, by the French, by the British, by the Portuguese, of course, and by the Americans was a far more treacherous form of slavery, right? It went beyond just the indentured servitude. This slavery that occurred that they try to use as a scapegoat on a continent to say, well, black people was enslaving other black people. You can still essentially become the king or the highest ranking royal in that particular servitude in slavery in the continent, or you can marry into the family. Also, what's equally important is that the slavery that you may have, which is the servitude that you may have found yourself in, even if you had a lifetime condition of slavery that you found yourself in, it would not then transfer to your children. It was not a generational thing. So again, when we fail to understand history, when we fail to understand nuance, then we misrepresent what the conditions were in these other places. So now going back to how they seen themselves and understanding this 2,000 to 3,000, which means they have a different culture, which means they have a variance in the food they eat, in the traditions that they have, in the colors that they wear, in the way that they choose to engage with their surrounding environment. Like all of these differences existed there. So then trying to make them as these one people is not true, right? And then the other thing is that what was happening is they were war with each other, just like we fight with each other right now. Just like we have a gang activity fighting, we from different sides, we from different states, we from different cities, just like we war with each other. So when they were selling these people, it's not like they were actually selling their own people from their own nations, right? From their own tribes or whatever, right? They were selling people that were prisoners of war or who was enemies, or perhaps those when they were the prisoner, or if they were just prisoners, right? If they were the evil people that existed in their society and they killed people, rape people, just whatever, right? So again, there's a nuance in the context as to who exactly was being sold during this particular time. And I don't know, everybody understands what the definition of ethnicity is, because I was going back and forth, and then somebody in the comments was like, well, those countries didn't, because I said ethnicity, it was different ethnicities, and it was like, well, those countries didn't exist, or so it was like, and I'm like, I said ethnicity and country is two different things. The borders that you see, and that's what I said, if y'all on TikTok, y'all got to come to House of I-10 HOUSE, just the same way it's spelled in the username, because I'm gonna hop on the YouTube, and then I'll show some graphics and things like that. Y'all still be able to listen and keep up, but that's where you'd be able to see the graphics. So let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. We can probably use this one. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so yeah, let's do this. Let's use this real quick. So, okay, let me see. I think y'all should still be able to. Okay. Yeah. All right, I just wanted to make, I already got it up over here, my bad. All right, I just wanted to make sure that y'all can still see. All right, so when we go to this map, right, and so now we about to. All right, so when we go to this map, and when we're looking at this map, and you see these particular borders that exist, how it has Niger, how it has Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana, like these were things that were created after what was called the Berlin Conference. And I'm using this as an example. There was other ones that was really came out of that, but it was called the carving up of Africa, right? And so they carved up Africa, and this is where you had the French, the Germans, the British, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the Spaniards. They all carved up these particular boundaries, drew these imaginary boundaries, and created a divide between the people. And they created a divide between the people, and there became a hierarchy that existed. And so over time, these physical boundaries also became boundaries on the mind of the people, and they began to separate themselves, and they began to call themselves by these particular names. And so if you look at now, I went down to Angola, and understanding that Angola had one of the largest importations of slaves from Africa to over to the Americas and every place else. They used to really pillage Angola and get people from out of there. But this whole entire Western Africa, right? And so, but before then, now let's go to another map real quick. So I'm gonna close that one down, and I'm gonna go to let's say pre-colonial map. So we go to a pre-colonial map of Africa. Let's see. How's this one look? No, that's the 1914 map. Okay, let's use this one. So remember, I was talking about the Berlin Conference. Should be showing this pre-colonial map. All right, so when we look at this pre-colonial map, you see it says 1858, and that's why it's important to really do your research and really do history. But you see where Ethiopia is at and where Sudan is at. Matter of fact, I should have kept up the other map so we can do a comparison. I'm going back to that. Okay. So now, do you see where Ethiopia and Sudan is at? All of this at one point by people from the outside was considered Ethiopia. And even if you look at a map before that, it takes even more of it. And then it says like it's a great desert and nothing is really there. Although we do know, if we go back far enough in time, that there was grass and there was life and civilization that was in this place that they call the Great Desert. And you see where Southern Africa, you see how big these boundaries and these borders are? Like this is, and all these people was together, and there weren't these individual boundaries as what we saw from the other map that exists, the newer maps that exist. That all happens because of something called the Berlin Conference, where it's also known as the Scramble of Africa. This happens in 1884, 1885. And this is how colonization occurs. So that's why when you get into Africa, you have these people that speak these particular languages. So they speak French, they speak Spanish, they speak Portuguese, because the language was the language that they had to end up speaking. And this is how they end up erasing their native languages, erasing their native traditions and their cultures. And they have to now adopt the way of their enslavers and the colonial and imperialists, right? But even still, they hid the practice of their own traditions and they merged it into, whether that was Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, whatever that was, and it's a thing called syncretism. So they take them from Africa. Mind you, this says 1858. They're taking them from Africa. Now, some clarity to something else, right? Because we talking about Juneteenth, who can celebrate it, who can't. They saying this is only for African Americans. This is not for other people to be able to celebrate. So in 1808, the U.S. Constitution, or the people, the senators, representatives at the time, they come up with this law, this rule, and it says that you cannot transfer or take people from Africa through into the Atlantic, into the Caribbean. You can't bring people over anymore because that's all illegal, right? Nonetheless, we know that it's illegal to bring drugs into this country, so we can rest assured that people were still doing that. So you have a ship called the Clotilda. The Clotilda ends up landing into... I'm going to talk about a couple things real quick. But the Clotilda is the last known slave ship to bring captive Africans to the United States. They were smuggled, those Africans, into Mobile, Alabama. There was probably about 110. This is 1860. Mind you, the map that I just showed you, though, is the map from 1858. Matter of fact, I think it's still up. Right, it's still up. So the map from 1858. So, obviously, right, that exists. Let's just take Alabama. Let's take Alabama, and then we're going to take Louisiana. So the other thing that you have to talk about, too, is the Haitian Revolution. So now the Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1804. And this is where Haiti becomes, shout out Haiti, playing tonight. So this is where Haiti becomes the first black republic in the Western Hemisphere. So let me go ahead and take this off. Let's pull up. Haiti at the time is known as Saint Domingue. This is the whole entire, I want to pull up both of them because it's the whole entire, it's Haiti and Dominican Republic all together is one particular nation. So they end up transferring ownership between the French, between the Spaniards, between the British. Later on, the United States gets their hands involved in it, especially after the Monroe Doctrine. But what's important is, let's talk about a triangulation. Take people from Africa. Only 388,000 people, Africans, come directly from Africa to the Americas. Only 388,000. Now, your largest populations go to South America. So that's like Brazil. You have populations that go to Mexico, but then the Caribbean. So it's between South America and the Caribbean is where your largest populations of Africans end up going. So what happens with the Haitian Revolution, after they end up defeating their oppressors, they end up then escaping, and they escape and try to go to Louisiana. There's a number of people. There's even white planters, like, who was involved in the slave trade. They end up escaping to Louisiana because they're terrified of what the Haitians are going to do, because how the Haitians were liberating themselves. And in Louisiana, they took some of the people they did not get free, right? Everybody didn't get free, but a vast number of them did. So the planters take their couple of slaves, and then they take them into New Orleans. So then New Orleans population ends up doubling, right? So New Orleans populations ends up going from, like, I think it was 10, 12, something like that, or 10, 12,000, ends up going to like 24,000 after the Haitian Revolution. So let me verify that real quick. So between 1809 and 1810, over 10,000 Saint Domingue refugees end up coming into Haiti. Now, mind you, that's documented, so we know that number could either be a lot more, it could be a lot less, but they're probably going to err on the side that it was probably a lot more. And they take it from about 10,000 to over 20,000 people. So now, understanding 3 of your ports that were your largest ports or transfer places, I even throw 4 because I want to throw in Natchez, Mississippi too, but it's Charleston, South Carolina, you got Virginia, and you have New Orleans. So what is happening at this time is there are a lot of Africans and or Caribbeans that are existing in those 3 areas. Again, this is for the people who are saying that people of the African diaspora or the Caribbean cannot celebrate Juneteenth. It's the most ignorant thing I ever heard, but you have to combat ignorance with intelligence. And this is only for the people who really are trying to learn. There are going to be some people who are just going to be feet are going to be deep in the sand, deep in the mud, and they're not moving off the hill, and that's fine. You could down the hill, you can be that type of person. I don't care. It is what it is. You're just going to be the one who looks stupid because the information tells you something different about what the realities are. So now remember, I said Africans, you got them in Charleston, South Carolina, you got them in Virginia, and you got them coming through New Orleans, especially with the Caribbean people. We're talking about after the Haitian Revolution right now. So existing in Louisiana and in New Orleans, the cuisine is starting to change, the language is starting to change, the Creole, all of this, but then they're also inspiring because the stories are going throughout the United States of what the Haitians have done and how they have liberated themselves, and still to this day they have had the only successful liberation and rebellion up under the European regimes, right? The only one is Haiti, and they're paying for that right now because a lot of people like to look down on the Haitians and say that they're poor, but they don't don't understand the disinvestment that occurred and how much Haiti had to pay 150 million francs in order to liberate themselves. And they had to pay it to the French. The United States got involved in that as well. And so part of the reason why they're poor, you know, the inflation, the interest, they've had to pay that down, and they have not been able to invest what is the equivalent of like $20 billion into their own economy because they have had to pay for their freedom. I think they didn't end up paying whatever portion that they needed to pay until well into like the 40s or 50s, and they got hit with other sanctions. Other countries won't do business with them, so this hurt their economic opportunity because they were punished for their freedom, right? So but nonetheless, anyways, they're existing in New Orleans, they're existing in Louisiana, and all their cuisine is existing, but the slave trade is still occurring. The slave trade is still happening throughout Louisiana at this time. Remember, I said that they didn't get theirs until I think it was April, Emancipation Proclamation, April of 1865. So all these people, of course, and then they're reproducing because they did stop the transportation directly from Africa into the Americas, but that doesn't mean that it actually stopped. So now when you talk about Texas, because the person that I heard say this was talking about how Texas, and this is an African-American holiday, you have to talk about the trade of Africans coming from the islands of Cuba, Haiti, Jamaica, the Virgin Islands, and they're going into Galveston, Texas. They're going into Mobile. They're going into New Orleans and Louisiana, but really that Galveston, Texas connection. And so when you start looking at some of those names of those people who are listed, there's a really good white paper that I was exploring called The Origins of African-Born Population of Antebellum, Texas. This is by Sean M. Kelly and Henry B. Lovejoy. So I'm sourcing up. So now if you want to combat me with the information, then you're going to have to provide me some other sources, some authenticated sources. So before I tell you what I'm about to tell you. And then even with that, let's roll back a little bit further. You have Estevanico, also known as Esteban, who comes up into Galveston Island in 1528 on the butched exploration of the ill-fated Narvaez. Remember, he is enslaved up under Andres Dorantes de Carranza. So, but Esteban is one of the first known explorers of people here and he's in Texas. This is an African. This is somebody born in West Africa. Already debunked. Right? That's 1528. They've been traveling here. So anyways, but let's go back to what I was talking about. And what Sean Kelly and Henry B. Lovejoy was looking up the ethno-linguistics origins, and when they looked up the ethno-linguistic origins by looking up the names of those who were enslaved in Texas, people like Old Joel, they found that 40% carried traditional, 40% of those people carried traditional Yoruba names, and then 20% carried Igbo names. So this is antebellum Texas. So this is after or right before you have the Emancipation Proclamation of 1865. So let's go into it more specific, right? So now Africans began arriving in Texas in significant numbers in the years immediately prior to 1820 because of cotton cultivation in the Mississippi River Valley. So just real quick, I'm telling y'all, bro, we're not gonna be ignorant. Like, we're not gonna make the same mistakes because we want to be exclusionary and then pass off this information and just act like we all can't be united in the celebration. So it's time to debunk all of that BS. So the first times of the 1830s led to high domestic slave prices in the United States, and many Texas planters, especially those who were fleeing bad debts, could not afford the high prices at New Orleans. As a result, a new system developed where merchants went to Cuba, this is what I'm talking about, to buy slaves at a cheaper price and bring them to Texas. That's what timeline did I say? After the 1830s. So we know in 1865 that there were people who were not born on this particular soil. You already talking about people who came from Cuba. So you had smugglers who brought enslaved people from Cuba to Texas in hopes of selling them plantation owners. You got the McNeil brothers, so all my people from Texas. If you're looking into history and this and stuff, these names should sound familiar. You got the McNeil brothers and Monroe Edwards. Another name is Thomas Toby of New Orleans. They were the principal purchasing agent when most African-born people arrived to the Republic of Texas. Using the census from 1870 to 1880 in newspapers, 119 119 names of clear African origin was tracked, not to suggest that these were the only members, because names were changed to English names, so the true or accurate count of just how many Africans were there is unknown. But you had 119 names that they used in this particular study. Remember I said that the particular paper I'm talking about is the origins of African-born populations of antebellum Texas. So, from the Bullock, Texas State History Museum, they started talking about following Mexican independence in 1821. The Mexican government adopted policies to gradually outlaw slavery, but Anglo settlers worked to ensure slavery was preserved in Texas. A number of enslaved African Americans arrived with Stephen Austin in approximately 443. At the time of his arrival, it was agreed that settlers could receive 80 acres of land for each enslaved person they bought. So now he got 443, and according to their constitution, it says for every one slave, you can get 80 acres of land. Stephen Austin further states that the principal product of elevators from poverty is cotton, and we cannot do this without the help of slaves. People of African descent were part of the population that settled Texas in the 17th and 18th century. People of African descent. With the increase of the enslaved population, 30,000 enslaved people in Texas in 1845, then 58,000 in 1850, ballooning to 182,000 by 1860. Some of these new slaves into Texas came from the domestic slave trade in New Orleans, which was at the end of the slave trade in South. The average price, regardless of age, sex, or condition, rose from $400 in 1850 to about $800 in 1860. The late 1850s, prime male field hands aged 18 to 30 cost on an average of $1,200, and skilled blacksmiths were valued at more than $2,000. So there's a cultural melting pot that happens in Texas, and this is at the time, and the people that you have that exist in Texas, this is from the museums, this is from the papers, the documents. You have American-born slaves. Those were forced to migrate to Texas from the American Old South, because what was happening is that as the Union was starting to get closer and closer, the people were trying to get further and further away. So they're going into Texas. So they're trying to leave Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and they're going further west to get away from the Union soldiers, as the Union soldiers are starting to make their encroachment on those Confederate areas as they're starting to win. So that's what you have. Then you have first generation African survivors of the illegal slave trade. Then you have Caribbean born laborers, because what you used to have is this process where the people, the slave masters, are the ones who was in control, and the Americas used to say, do not bring me any Africans until they have participated in something called seasoning and bug breaking. And seasoning and bug breaking was a process that occurred in the Caribbean. So what they used to have was a method and an approach. If you came from Africa and you were rebellious, if you still tried to practice your culture and your religion, if you still tried to speak your language, if, they would take you and do certain things to you to torture you, to break you down. Because when you came to America, they didn't want anybody that had any pride. They didn't want anybody that still wanted to practice and remember and associate themselves where they came from, because they were going to give you a new identity, an identity of where you accepted that you were subservient. The seasoning and bug breaking happening down there, and it was also mental. So they would watch the person who was the one who was big, who was rebellious, and they would take them and they would beat him down in front of the rest of the community to show as an example. And they would cut off limbs and torture and everything. Because then psychologically that made other people want to be rebellious. And it's also something that happened with the women and then the kids, and where the women try to protect their kids, and they would cause the kids to be more subservient and not be prideful and everything too. And then after that happened with the rest of the community, then they would allow them to come up into the States. Again, another example of how there was an intermixing and intermingling of people from the Caribbean and people from Africa into the States during the time of the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation to celebrate what it is that we call Juneteenth. Whole entire thorough process you can read and learn about. The problem is that the people who are spewing this ignorance and saying who can and cannot celebrate Juneteenth ain't read enough. They have not learned enough. They have not explored enough of their history to even be able to break down and understand and tell you these things. So they, silly butts, think that only people born on the soil of America existed in the enslavement during the time of 1865 and the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. That's why they essentially say that, because at some point in their minds they think that, and I think it has to go with, because on documentation it says that after 1808 they couldn't bring people over from Africa anymore because the trade had been essentially abolished, and if you did get caught doing it, it was a penalty of death. So because they read that, they just think that it was in policy and it was immediately cut off. And no, that's not how it works. It's not how it ever works, and this is not what the documentation says. So as you have these different people that exist here, what is this at? As you have different people that exist here, of course you have all these different ethnicities. Remember what I was saying earlier, before the colonialism that occurred and before the Berlin Conference, you have 2,000 to 3,000 different ethnicities within West Africa alone. So we've always been intermixed and had these different backgrounds of people that were there. And don't forget too, they changed names, right? They changed people's names. Like for me, I got an African name, but I couldn't have my name, and they would have changed my name to something European. So the other thing too that we don't know, because the documentation is not clear, is we don't know these who are going by the name of Robert, Tony, Jonathan, Matthew, Michael. You don't know if they actually had names that proceeded from African countries and had a different African origin, and they were named Ifatunde, or they had Wolof names, or what am I thinking? They had Wolof names, they had Ashanti names, like they have all these different Bantu names and stuff that exist, and they had to change it. So again, because you see John Smith was on this particular plantation, that don't mean that was John Smith's name. The other thing too is that they changed the names. A lot of times they even their last names when they went to different plantations because they wanted to identify ownership. So they wanted to know, they wanted you to be able to identify and say like last name Thomas. All right, so at some point there was this Thomas plantation or this Thomas that owned, and then those are the names that we took. Really cool thing is, typically if you see somebody with the last name Freeman, you ever met somebody with the last name Freeman? What happened was, once they got free, as black people got free, they threw off the last name, like how Malcolm X did. Remember, he's Malcolm Little, and then you also had the Honorable Elijah Poole. They threw off the name of their enslaver and they created new names, and one of the names that they created was Freeman. So that has a history and an origin to it as well. So, you know, these are the nuances that we must understand, and why today is such a prideful and impactful day, especially when it comes to Haiti playing in Brazil, because Haiti was such an inspiration to all these other rebellions that happened here in this fight for liberating themselves. And then Brazil, because that is your largest population, because they speak Portuguese, or in South America, somewhere they may speak Spanish, not understanding that their roots tie back to Africa. And what we have to stop doing is we have to stop trying to cut off our further lineage of our history and starting our story in the middle. We got to stop doing that, because if those people did not come. Appreciate that, bro. Thank you for sending me that mix real quick. My ride, I'll close out with some of that stuff off that mix. But if those people did not come together, have a union together, have kids, and produce back there on the continent of Africa, you could not be here. Anybody up under the sound of my voice that is of African descent, even if you African American, your people been here for 6-7 generations. At some point in your history, somebody had a union either in the Caribbean or on the continent of Africa. And all those several people that had those unions, you could not be here. So starting your story in the middle and saying like, okay, I'm Haitian and I don't have any connection to Africa. I'm Jamaican. I don't have any connection to Africa. I am Puerto Rican, Dominican, whatever it is. I don't have any connection to Africa. It's just a fabrication of the historical facts. It's not possible. It's not possible. I understand that we don't know exactly because of the institution and the intricacies of slavery or what happened, but that does not mean that you don't have a direct association and correlation with Africa. And the other important thing too is everybody else wants to do business on a continent, but they're trying to stop us from doing business on a continent, the place that has the most resources. They have the most resources, natural resources, that we need to figure out and get our hands on, at least start these partnerships, because the Chinese is doing business. Everybody's doing business. All right, let's go. All right. See, we here now. Put this thing up on a projector. I gotta put this thing up on a projector. All right. Look, I was running my mouth. I didn't even realize that we was 18 minutes in. Set this thing up on the projector real quick. Hey.